Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Justin Mwara. This video is in response to the Mohammeds. The YouTube channel is The Residential Tourist. This is Black American couple, husband and wife, who are residing in Rwanda, Kigali for 2 years. Let's take a look and I'll come and discuss what they've mentioned.
Expats have found Kigali, Rwanda to be that go-to country. Many black expats have found Kigali, Rwanda to be that go-to country to relocate to here on the continent of Africa. As the residential tourists, we've been here for 2 years and we've seen many of them actually come. However, we've also have seen many of them leave to go to other countries on the continent. Why is that? Watch this video while we share some of that information with you. Meanwhile, please be sure, subscribe, like, share, and comment. Greetings, peace and blessings. We are the Mohammeds, the residential tourists from 85 to Africa. We are living in the after. Today we are smack dead in the middle of Kigali, car-free zone, Mumuji. We thought that we would sit among the people today and share with you some good stuff. As you may already know, as the residential tourist, we've been here in Kigali, Rwanda for 2 years now. That's a blessing, truly a blessing. We're thankful, we're grateful for that. In this short period of time, we've seen a lot. Right? Just like many who are here as far as expats, particularly black expats, we were among that migration, if you will, right? That came. And since we've been here, we've been seeing even more coming.
A lot of them came because of this channel.
That's very true. We didn't plan it that way, but it just kind of happened that way, and we're so humbly grateful for that.
But because of that, and we're noticing some of them not staying here too long.
They're not.
We decided that we had to make sure that we are being 100% transparent, make sure we're giving you the real, raw truth about repatriation to Rwanda.
From our perspective, from our experience, right? That's the only thing we can really do.
And experience also of those that have come, now they done left.
And they left, from what we've seen and what they've actually directly shared with us, right? So why? The hype, I guess, I don't want to use that word. That just seems like it's really false, because, everything that you research and you learn about as it relates to Rwanda checks off. We've said that. It checks off, right? But again, some of the things that we mentioned also is that some things you just can't research. You have to come and you have to actually experience it for yourself. And that's the gamble, because you don't know. You don't know how it's going to work in your favor or against you. And so some find it favorable, where we're seeing for many, not so much. So we want to know, and we want to talk about.
You got to understand that Rwanda is an easy transformation. That part is easy. You don't really go into major culture shocks. You don't have to pretty much forget everything that you've been taught in life and who you are, to try to adapt and come into a culture. It's an easy transformation on that level. That part is true. You can come in, you can get your business license real easy, 6 hours like you told.
bear witness.
You could come in and get affordable housing, cheaper than the States.
We bear witness.
And you can definitely come in and just pretty much adapt to the regular life of Rwandans and expats and many other cultures that's here. That part is easy.
Yeah.
There's no misconception on that. It's easy.
Yeah, it's very easy. Not at all. So now, let's just look at it for what it is, okay? Let's break it down, okay? And we're going to break it down according to our own experience being here, as well as shared experience of others who we know directly, who have decided to say, you know what, we're gone, we're leaving. Some that have already gone, and some who are in the process of actually leaving. And so
this is a collaboration of information that we've collected.
Absolutely.
It's not just the Muhammad's information, because it's really some of their issues is not our issues.
Right.
So this is a collab of information of, truthfully, our friends that have come and that are now going to leave, or they're going to another African country.
Right.
So
now, number one, okay, and this is something that we personally can identify with, all right? So number one, naturally, as black expats, as diasporas, as immigrants, again, try to find the right identity.
Every word we say, y'all tell us don't say it. Don't call yourself.
But you understand where I'm coming from. When we look toward Africa, we look to come to relocate here. We have our own reasons. However, among them is, I think it's shared across the board, is we want to come home and reconnect. We've said this many, many times. So what we come to find is that even though we share that desire, we share that yearning to come back home and to reconnect, the reception is not always altogether the same. Not to say that we're not well received, because we are well received and very much welcome. However, how are we received? From what perspective or perception, I should say, are we received? And so that becomes a dilemma. What we found, and many who share the same experience have found, is that we are not viewed or seen exactly the same way. Meaning, we're looking at it from the perspective of we're reuniting with our family. We're reuniting with our brothers and sisters, right? And not to say none of them feel that, but on a general basis, a lot of them put us in a category of foreigner. Even though we share the same skin color, even though we share the same features, even though some that may be aware of our history, our sojourn, having once been here ancestrally, nonetheless, the general perception is we are foreigners, to the degree that we are referred to as Muzungu, which really is a term that really identifies with the Caucasian, right? So, we are Black Muzungu, as we have been told, and been referred to as Black Muzungu. And it's offensive. And of course, they don't mean to be offensive. However, when having that dialogue, when having that actual discussion to explain to them why it is offensive for us, nonetheless, they still keep us held in that particular category. And so, the full acceptation, being fully accepted, it's still a bit of an issue.
Well, let me say why. I mean, because we're probably going to have that anywhere we go. People are always going to assume that if you're American, then you carry money.
And that's where we're held as foreigner.
Right, foreigner equals money, and it's not. And that would be fine, because we could, we're all day whatever, dude.
We don't have no money.
But you're treated like you're almost obligated to give up your money.
Right.
And that's what people are tired of. Now, either you're obligated to give up your money, for one, where they can ask you, Madam, do you have some money? If you say no, they're going to come on this side of you. Ma'am, do that. Oh, yeah.
Let me reposition myself. Maybe the lighting wasn't hitting me right.
And follow you to the car to the point where you have to talk to yourself, like, don't snap. Listen, I don't have anything. So you feel like you're obligated to give, or you're obligated to be rude. Another thing of what being treated as foreigners is constant staring at you. But this is what I'm noticing sitting outside. They're not staring at the Mazungos. Have you noticed that?
I've noticed that.
I'm like, they don't.
Mazungo meaning Caucasian, white.
The true meaning that they have.
Right.
So they don't stare at them. I don't see them circling them, harassing them, trying to sell their belts to them. But for us, as soon as we hit the ground, you gotta buy this belt. I don't care you said no 3 times, you're gonna buy this belt. So it's not just all foreigners. It feel like it's just Black Americans.
And that's the feeling, and it becomes uncomfortable. But more than that, it becomes, again, as mentioned, it becomes, insulting in a sense, because we're trying to be able to connect. We're trying to connect. We're trying to build a relationship, to establish a rapport, which all of that, right? And we're hoping that we can be seen. We have enough of that in the States where we're not clearly seen. We're not seen, So our hope is that we can come here and we can be that. We can be seen. So, not to belabor the point, that is definitely a key point as to why I could see, leading individuals not wanting to stay, wanting to really continue on their search and finding a place where they are more comfortable and received.
Another issue with not feeling like you're part of the community. One of the people were saying that constantly have to try to find someone to negotiate for you because you're being taken advantage of. So if you're trying to buy a car, knowing that this other person can get a car for $3,000, they're going to charge you $6,000.
Just because. And they're just going to shoot their shot. So it's like, really? Okay. I've done it myself. I literally sat in the car and asked our driver at that time to go and find out how much a sink was. He said a price to him, and then I sent Giselle in to ask a price. They gave her a totally different price. And then I'm mad because they told me the price a week prior. So I had to go in there now and start fussing. And then I get my price. She had to get the jersey on.
And it's like, why we gotta do all of that? That's so taxing. It's so taxing. So, and a combination of many of the expats that are leaving, that was like number one.
That's key.
Number
one
issue.
Very, very key. All right. So now, second thing. And this is in no really particular order. It's just points, right, that we want to hit. Not too long. Second thing is beautiful country, beautiful, very progressive, advancing very well, very, very fast, merging very fast. However, there's some areas that still haven't caught up yet, and that is actually having social and recreational activities for either individual or family. It's not much to do. It's really not a lot to do. It's one of those things where once you've done it, maybe twice,
3 times. But the thing is, the stuff that's out to do, especially if you have children, you can do everything in a week.
You really can. and in fact, you do everything in a week about a couple times.
You can do everything in a week.
And that's pretty much it. It's pretty much the size of it. It's pretty much the end of it, And that weighs heavy because you have a lot of families. You have a lot of people who have come with family as families, and as my wife has said time before, it may be okay for some of the senior community, because they don't require a whole lot. And I don't want to speak for the senior community. I know I got a lot of gray hair. I'm not a senior yet, but anyway,
you can get AARP.
I'll take it. I'll take that AARP. But anyway, there's not really a lot to do, and we've experienced ourselves. 'Cause, we have 2 girls.
Yeah, teenagers. If you have teenage children, it can get really sticky out here because there's not a lot to do.
Right, it's not a lot.
So if it's not a lot to do, especially if you have teenagers that's coming from the States. They are very much so used to a different quality of life.
Yeah.
Malls, movies, hanging out with friends. They can do that, but it's not a lot. It's not a lot.
It's not. Again, it's like it's very limited. So it's kind of like, once you've done it, we've done it. How much often, how much more can we do it? What's the next? So anyway.
A lot of expats will go back.
Or reconsider somewhere else, as has been done and being done, to be able to accommodate those very, very essential things for the quality of their living, the quality of life. So now, we know, as this is number 3, we know as particularly black people, expats, right? We work, we know the wages that we're earning. Speaking in the States, the wages that we're earning, we take it for what it is, and we live off of it the best way that we can. But we know it's not enough, right? However, we're not strangers to the hustle. And I'm not talking about anything negative. We're not strangers to how to make something work for us that we can better make our ends meet, right? And there are many things you can do. There's many things you can do. There's many outlets.
In the States,
I'm speaking, specifically in the States. However, here,
it's a different ballpark.
It's really the level of earning an income is very, 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 very tight. It's very tight.
Yeah, we have people that have come, professional people, doctors, teachers, chiropractors, herbologists, people with holistic healing certifications,
credentials,
doulas, and I don't know all the ins and out of it. Rwanda has its own way of accepting your credentials. It's a lot of loopholes from the people that we're talking to. Obviously, it ain't us, but the people that have talked to us about it, it's a lot of loopholes. It's a lot of things just not really properly put in place or not moving expeditiously. So it's lingering 6-7 months just to have people move stuff off of a desk. There's no level of urgency or importance. And so people are coming thinking that they're going to put up a practice. They're going to either transfer to the hospitals here and work, or Rwanda will either say they don't see a need for your profession and deny you that opportunity to have to put a practice up. We've heard that. Also, they'll say, because they go off of credentials of the country. So if you don't have, normally if you're in the States or you have your degrees from somewhere in the States, you're fine. But if you are missing something, you have to go and petition to have it reviewed and some other things. So professional people, you can't come to Rwanda and really find a lot of Black Americans in that real professional field. You don't see it. You don't see Black American doctors here. You will see teachers, because that's easy. They take teachers all over the world. It's an easy transfer of credentials for that. But the real professional, high-level positions, you don't see a lot of Black Americans here. And so a lot of people, once they realize that, they leave.
I mean, you think about it. You've two things to say to that. You think about individuals who have these particular credentials. They've studied. They've spent a lot of money, going to get schooling to acquire those particular credentials, right? And I mean, it was their passion, but they were looking for the payoff as well. So now, having those particular credentials and hoping that they can come to a place where they can exercise or they could contribute their expertise, their schooling, their learning, all of that, without any red tape, without any institutionalized, racism or anything of that nature. But then you get held up because you can't get recognized for as my wife was saying. And so
remember, a big thing is Rhonda doesn't recognize home-based businesses.
So you can't even do a home practice.
Yeah, a lot of people come in and they're trying to open up a business, like get a big house and then open up one for their practice, one for their, where they're going to do their counseling at or their practicing services at. Rhonda don't recognize that.
No.
So you're not going to get a work visa because you're saying you have a business that works from home. They don't recognize that you work online. That maybe you have an e-commerce sale and e-commerce online and you want to also sell outside of your house or something like that. No, that is not recognized.
That's not recognizable.
So you're forced to have overhead if you're trying to open up anything here because they do not recognize home-based business.
Right.
And that's major for us because in the States, especially after COVID, most of us have a home-based business.
Right.
We try to come over, let's get it in compliance with Rhonda. There's no compliance. You're not gonna get that.
So you have to have some form of brick and mortar, or you just have to have that bank, and the account that have where you can just live off of it, however you need to or however you should choose, right? So yeah, so that's a major issue. Okay, now number 4. Now, bear with us because in mentioning this, we're not intending to be insulting. However, it is something that really is major. It's a very major component as it relates to relatability and functioning and coexisting as an expat and as locals, working together, building together, relationship together, right? So, growing up, my mother used to say this, and I'll start it this way. She used to say, common sense is not too common, right? I'm sure you've all heard that before, right? So the reason why I say that is because there is a great difference in the mentality between we black expats and the locals. Now, I don't want to position myself as if we're better or our mentality is better or worse. It's a difference, a clear difference that puts us in the mindset. It puts us in the thought of they don't have the common sense, and that could be very insulting and offensive. So we have to be careful when we have that thought and just say, wait a minute, let's check it out, let's check into it. So
with the common sense thing, just to be more clear, it'd be more like where our minds are more proactive, we will do X, Y, and Z to prevent A, B, and C from happening. Their minds is more reactive.
A reactionary, yes.
So it'll be like you took your car into a shop. This is a true story. You took your car into a shop for, let's say, a radiator issue. And they see that there's a crack in the radiator. And they just fix that. But the tubes are still corroded. So instead of coming out saying your tubes that's connecting to your water pump and the thermostat is blown, even though they might have seen it, they still will close that hood up and send you on your way. So then your car breaks down before you even get home, and you're calling and they're like, yeah, I did see that. And you're like, what? If you've seen that, why didn't you just tell us we need to replace the thermostat? I apologize. Are you going to bring it back? So then when you bring it back, guess who's responsible for that?
I mean, but something like that could happen in the States. That could happen.
No,
Because
anytime,
you know mechanics. You can know mechanics.
No, because when you go
Mechanics
to
are-
a shop, before they even touch your car, they come out and they tell you the
Get a
whole list
diagnostic.
of everything that needs to be
Sure
done
you do.
besides that major issue. But it could be something visible that you see. This needs to be done as well. It wouldn't click to go ahead and let me do it, or let me tell you about it also. They'll say, oh, I did see that. Why didn't you mention it? Now I have to pay for the towing to get back there. Not you, even though you just admitted that you seen the issue. It'd be stuff like that.
I got a better one.
drives us crazy.
But I got a better one. I have a better one, right? And again, so we mentioned the driving and stuff. However, more specifically, right? So you're driving. There's four-way stop, right? And the reason why I'm gonna bring this example up is because I want to give the benefit to both sides. And the reason why I want to do that is because it was brought to my attention that what we may think to be common sense, that is based on what we know to be what is common to us. But what is common to them is something totally, totally different. So
It's
here's
just expats can't figure it out.
Right.
though.
But so that's why I'm
We
saying.
can't figure out that common part.
So here's the example, right? Four-way stop sign, right? Now, we know as we're driving, we come to a stop sign, regardless if I'm the only vehicle in that four-way direction, I come to a stop. Without question. You come to a stop, right? Because of the possibility of other vehicles that could be coming or whatever the case may be, right? So for us, even though we don't see any other vehicles, we know we come to a halt. For us, that's common sense, right? Now, what we've experienced, however, is that even though there is a stop sign, they will not stop. They will keep going. But to give the benefit of the doubt, and the reasoning is that why would I stop and I don't see any cars coming? If there's no cars coming, what am I stopping for? So for them, that's common sense. It's common sense to them, like there's no reason to stop because there's nothing to stop for. So I'm gonna just keep on going. And if a car happens to come, then it's not for me to stop, it's for them to stop.
Nobody stops.
Nobody stops.
Even the new Rondon right here.
So
I'm just like,
it's
what's going on? And it's very frustrating, especially for the ladies. We can't deal with it. Can't deal. It's mind blowing because you got your children in the back.
of course.
So and of course we're usually on the passenger side. So it's us that's going to get crushed on the right. We can't deal with it. There's a lady. She said the two reasons she was leaving. Oh, there's three. The stairs, the food, and the driving. Every single expat says the driving. That's one of the issues. The driving.
I mean, I know it sounds very trivial, but you know, it's something to experience. And a lot of it has to do, again, with the difference in mentality. Because when you're driving, you're behind the wheel, you know, there has to be a certain level of order. And the order comes by way of a particular thought process.
And there's no order. That's the problem.
And so from my vantage point. So the difference is why I term it the difference of mentality and the very difficulty in trying to understand so that, you know, it's relatable or we can be relatable. It's very hard. And so that is a major reason why individuals say, you know what, I can't do it. I can't deal with it. I have to go. And again, we know individuals who have experienced that in and of itself, and they're not here any longer. So there you have it. All right.
So lastly, a major reason, a major issue. And I remember watching before we got here other YouTubers that came and they got sick or sinus issues was major, And it's the weather. The weather or the allergens from the pollution from the cars and the motos. But the weather plays a major part on a person's mental well-being as well as physical well-being. And Rhonda has a lot more rainy days than we have sunny days. I'm just being truthful. If you have mental issues, or you just really need to be in the sun, or you'll go depressed,
Or emotional issues.
or emotional issues, it's very hard for you here. If you have sinus issues, literally, and it's not just car fumes. There's a lot of fumes that we're not going to talk about right now that you have to really adjust to. Many nights, his eyes are raw. I got sinus migraines. It's very hard for you to adjust if you have sinus issues. Or also, I'm just going to be honest. Hospital care is good. It's very inexpensive. But you have to be on the doctors, you have to be on the nurses, you have to be on them, and you have to know your body. Or it gets a little scary. You have to really be on them. They don't ask your history, they don't know your allergens. So if you don't know what your intolerants are, it could be life-threatening. So a lot of people leave to go to other countries to find better medical care. And that's a major issue for us. I need better medical care. If you're healthy and you're young, it's okay. And I hear the pediatrics is really good here. The baby doctors. I know we have great doulas here. All that stuff is good. But y'all know we travel deep, like y'all keep telling us. We travel deep. We got every element.
Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to mess with.
We got mamas, children, and I got newfound. I'm in my middle age stuff, so ladies, y'all know what I'm talking about. So I got some new issues. Like a bug bit me, my whole hand swells up. What is this, man?
She got the hamburger helper hand.
This is retarded, and it jacked me all up for the whole day. I'm just like, my hand. So it's you have to, if you're not able to adapt to the climate of Rhonda. People talk about how beautiful the weather is because it's not hot.
Because it's not smoking hot.
There's not. There's many nights we under blankets. So it is beautiful certain times of the day. It's not beautiful every day. It's beautiful certain hours of the day. And it's beautiful right now, but y'all just seen raindrops falling in my eyes 10 minutes ago. And then by the time we get in the car, it's going to be pouring. You just don't know. It's beyond Atlanta weather. So the weather and mixed in with the health challenges here, a lot of expats do leave.
Yeah.
They do leave. Now, I don't want to say that takes away from us saying that this is a perfect place for retirement people.
Man, it's really good.
It's the best place. If you're retired, so all of those things that we said does not affect the retirees. Except for the medical.
Yeah, maybe that, or even maybe some. Well, I don't know. I mean, it could affect them as well. I mean, but all in all, I guess you're right. For those who don't have a high demand for certain things, which typically are more of the senior community.
Retirees just want to relax. They don't want to see a whole lot of people. They don't want to do a whole lot. They just want to relax and enjoy the beauty. They have every now and then have some friendships, have dinner at a nice place. They're happy. They're happy until something happens with the medical.
Right, that's major.
That's major, and so we see a lot of expats that leave, and not just black expats, because we know some other ones that leave and go to different countries just to get better medical care, and then when they get it, they come back because it's a great place for them. So
all in all, really, and we're sharing this, because, as you know, we like to keep it a buck. We try to keep it 100. Keep it, be authentic in our experience. And a lot of people don't have the platform or don't choose this particular platform or any platform to be able to share openly and publicly what their experience is and has been. We just so happen to have this particular platform, and we're sincere in our wanting to be able to share with you that, as my wife said in the beginning, there's many people that have come based on what they told us, based on what they have seen with us, living vicariously through us. So we want to be careful. We want to make sure that if you make that decision, you have several frames of references to be able to help measure with or measure against in your ultimate decision making. Or you're just well equipped and well armed, and if you're confronted with some of these things, you already know. You're already aware. So we're not wanting to deter anyone. We encourage any and everyone to come, visit Rwanda, live in Rwanda, but you have to determine for yourself what works for you. If it works for you, if you can tolerate these things, and these things have no effect on you at all, man, welcome. Welcome
Rwanda's a great
to Rwanda.
choice.
It's a great
Don't get
choice.
us wrong. Rwanda's a great choice. It's a great landing country, especially for us, because we came straight out of Atlanta, the best, probably the hottest city in the U.S.
Come on now.
We came right out of Atlanta, so we were
Hot
used to
Atlanta.
being very, very active in every way.
Yeah.
Every way. We were very active. So coming here, that was culture shock for us. You're not going to have those parks you're used to. You're not going to have activities all the time. So we literally had to slow that down. And it was okay at that time. But I'm ready to explore.
I mean, we the residential tourists, so the whole globe is our home.
That's it.
That's our attitude.
So you got to know these
So,
things
we
before
wanna-
you come. What do you need? Not what do you want? Because I think we a lot of us look for what we want.
That's a good
Look for
point.
what you need.
Right. Especially if you're making a long-term, life-altering decision. Consider something. So this is something you're not going to be able to look up on Google. You're not going to be able to find this stuff. You have to come. You have to really live among the people. You have to get involved, and you'll learn some things about yourself, and you'll learn some things about where you are as well. So
And you'll have great experiences.
Great experiences.
You will. There's no regrets.
not at all.
It's just what can you handle?
So that's our take on why many black expats or expats in general are leaving Rwanda to look at other countries on the continent, and some even actually going back to the States. So that's our take on it. Hopefully it's something that we shared is of good. No intent of offending anyone if we have. We love our Rwandan brothers and sisters. And so we didn't mean to offend if we did. It's all love, all love. And so, as always, thank you so much for your viewership. Please subscribe and keep us in good thought, as we will also do the same for you. All right. Peace and blessings.
So now, it's quite an in-depth analysis of what they've observed, what they've gone through, and what others are going through. And one thing I'll touch on, I think it's like 4 or 5 points I'll highlight on. I understand the mention about the gawking, the looking, and all of the other stuff. From my perspective, I want to put this and say, look, around the world, if you're new somewhere, you'll get people looking at you. If you're new in a country, you see other vloggers going into China, going into places where, I'm not saying that this is the same. They get looks. But what I'm trying to say is, this is my perspective. African Americans are looked more in high regards just because of what they do musically, sports, entertainment, and things like that. So it's like you go there, you talk with your accent, people kind of like react. Oh, you're from America, It's like Kobe walks up in a place, everybody kind of like reacts. Or Jordan, rest in peace to Kobe. I'll be like Jordan. Let's say Jordan walks up to a place, or any other, people kind of like are in awe. So that's what I'm trying to impart. Maybe there is that element, but yeah, especially in Africa, you just have to be firm and be like, people usually, when they see, they'll try and shoot their shot or try and hustle you or try and, because most of the time there's no other means. And they've learned, and I trust me, I have families, and they've learned to be so persistent in what they do. They'll really, they don't stop. So sometimes you just gotta shut them down and say no. This is that, and I really love this idea of a lot of Black Americans going back to Africa and going there and experiencing it and stuff like that. But now, one thing that I've seen a lot of people mention when they go there, they'll be like, oh, there's no infrastructure, this is not there, this and that. Whereas, I'll give you for an example, at least Kigali, it's one of the most developing, clean, and they take the appearances and maintenance of their cities seriously more than other countries do. But let's bear in mind that this is a developing country. This is a developing continent. So one cannot expect to go to Africa and expect everything to be like Australia or Japan or, like have subways running. I mean, in South Africa, maybe other places, yeah, you might get that, but you cannot expect that. And I know a lot of people are used to it, and that's what they want. But it's a developing. They still got ways to go. Eventually, they'll get there, and they'll get to that point where they can do all those things that are expected of them, like the rest of the world. Prime example. I give you an example. One day I was in Uganda. We were driving, and I was drinking a water bottle. So when I finished, I just put my water bottle to the side, and people would just say, hey, just throw it out of the window. I'm like, no, that's called littering. That's just putting trash, rubbish in the street. And people are like, no, everybody does that. I'm like, no, that's not really. I should stop somewhere and find like a pile or something like that and just throw it there. But it's things like that that Africa is still lacking, and Africa is still lacking back. And I remember even a day or so, I heard on the radio while we were driving, and they were saying they're putting in a new law to actually give people a ticket for littering, for dropping your trash in the street. And this is in Uganda. So now, if you go in the UK, if you go in America, littering, they have laws that has been there for like 70 something years. And maybe it was back in the days, it was worse. And that's why that law was brought in place. And through ticketing, fining people, eventually people, not all, I mean, you still go places and you still see people do stuff. People are just trying to be brats and stuff like that. But the point is, that's what makes common sense. That's what brings people to be aware of certain things. But what I'm saying, in Africa, most are not up to that point yet. And maybe when they put that law in, who knows? It might take 1 year, 2 years before the majority of citizens actually get it and be like, hey, let's not do this. It actually messes up our environment and stuff like that. And another thing they mentioned is also the professional. Like, let's say you go with a professional certificate and it's not accredited, but what you also have to tend to go in a place and look at what is it that the people need, that you can learn that skill and provide for them, or look at what's needed and stuff like that. And majority of time, I would think like things like chiropractor. I don't think they will need it, but I don't think people jumping into that in Africa like they do in the States. So it's one of those things. If you're going into farming, trying to do anything to do with manufacturing or create anything that would give you income that also would support people around, that people can and pay you for it, that's what you need to look into. And that's what you need to sit back and say, what is it that I can learn from the States or Australia or UK or whatever you're coming from? Then if you want to go in Africa, what is it that I can bring? Because in all these countries, like in the States, wherever you go, you got leadership skills. People look at you because you're in an advanced, well, right now the States getting beaten a lot, but it's still a first world country. And what you bring and what you know, it should be something that you take in there and you'll be like, hey, I give you another example, like the entertainment, like there's nothing to do. You should be able to, like, okay, if there's not a lot to do, what is it that I can create or find out what people would pay to have so that I can provide a service to them and people would come and pay me and you'll make money there as well. So, and it doesn't have to be something elaborate like, where you need all this big money like people do in Dubai and stuff. It could be something you can start it off and you could get in touch with your friends and like, hey, there's an opportunity to do this. We have this in the States. People charge for it, but over here they don't because it's still a new frontier and people haven't. It's not like if you're in the States, you're gonna step on a lot of toes because things are already covered over the years. Somebody's already established. There's already competition, so the room is not so open for you to do these things. So hence, it'll be good to prepare yourself. Things like agriculture, farming, or manufacturing, or all these other skills that we as a black people, I'm not talking about America or from UK or what, I'm just saying black people in general, we are not into, we are not, we don't get a lot into those areas. We tend to focus on sports, entertainment. There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm saying we need to, the world doesn't run on those things, but there's another part of it that if we delve into and then, know a lot, then we'll open ourselves up into being the actual leaders that these people need and growing with this rising trend that is happening in Africa. Africa, as I said, is on the rise, and most of the time people just don't have a reference point of how things are. So it'll be a good point where if you come in from abroad, you'll be like, hey, do you know what? Things are done this way. If you do this way, it'll help. Those are what is needed. I give you an example. I would rent. I've seen some rooms that like one bedroom apartment that people are building. They're getting rentals and they're making money out of it. But sometimes they don't even have kitchens in there. They'll say, oh, somebody will cook outside. And you're like, you still need a kitchen. But to them, it's like, well, people used to cook outside on their grass huts and stuff like that. And they don't see a need for it. And if they have a kitchen, it's a really small kitchen. So they don't have a reference to compare like, hey, this is done over here this way, and this is how it's, they're getting there with Google, all this and that. They're learning slowly. But sometimes everything else, you just got to have that one perspective. And that's what I try to instill in most diaspora people that, like, let's say were born in Uganda and they're still abroad. Even some friends that I know that they were born in a different African country, whether it's Egypt or wherever that I talk to. I'm like, hey, you gotta go back, you gotta visit, and you gotta stay away from mentality that things were the way they were when you left and stuff like that. So those are still issues that most of people abroad have, but things are changing. So, and another thing they mentioned, there were few. I actually just wrote down some points. Uh, Something else that is. Oh yeah, like for instance, I'll give you the other thing is she mentioned when the mechanic fixed a crack on the radiator but didn't fix the hoses. I've noticed that. I when I was in when I was in Uganda, I wanted a table. I took down the measurement, the height, and it's a small table to put like a gas, a small flat top, like a gas uh, cooker, and I wanted the cylinder to be underneath. So I wrote all the measurement to fit in the kitchen that I had there, and I took it to a mechanic. No, not a mechanic. I took it to a carpenter. Sorry, not a mechanic. And I said, "Hey, can you make me?" And I drew exactly the table how I wanted it. I'm like, "Hey, can you make me this table? This is the measurement. This is what I need." And he looked at me and was like, "Yeah, I got you." And a day or so, he called me back. He said it's ready. I went, I paid him, I picked up the table. I went, I placed it where it's supposed to go. It didn't fit. And the door was jamming next to it. And I called back. I'm like, "Hey, what happened to the measurement I gave you?" He couldn't answer me. I'm like, "What happened to the measurement?" So you'd come across these things where it's like the mechanic, you know, would do something and then it'll just, they won't do it. Over here, too, there's probably now laws that require mechanics that if you don't do a service, in subsequent video, I'll probably track it down and show you how these things work. What makes it a first world is the mechanic, by law, they're required to fix something and fix it good, because if not, then like in the US, they're liable to make it, you can take them to court or whatever, or you can go to extreme, but they'll make sure that they fix it so it doesn't happen. So it goes back to show you that in the first world or developed worlds, most of these things are we call common sense, already put in by laws that people kind of like know. Like if I go to a doctor and somebody's negligent, they can be held responsible because most of them, 100% of the time, they try to do the best as they can do. So with the mechanic situation, that was me with the table. And I left it like that. I was like, you know what? This is something that I had to be physically there, forcefully making sure driving that point in and like, hey, this how is this cut? That was my reaction. Like next time I do something, it'll be like that. I have to stay on them. It's like you're a supervisor and you have a new employee or somebody that just keeps messing up. Sometimes you just gotta you go scream and do, and eventually it'll get through, and the person will know like, hey, this is what I gotta do, and this is what needs to happen. And unfortunately, Africa is at that stage, and they require the leadership that each and one of expat or people in diaspora know, and they need to bring that with them and be like, hey, so that you become the guide. You're the basically, yeah. They need that leadership. There's no way ifs and buts and putting it. Plus, we need to also bring ourselves to a point that we can provide that to them. So I always have this thing I keep telling some of my friends that are thinking about going to Africa. I'm like, hey, get into things like learn agriculture, learn things, have a skill set that you can use, and have a 5-year plan. Invest up or save up and keep going back, and you're going to get burned and things are going to happen, and and that's part of life, and that's learning. and it's good to go through and you learn that way. Like like nobody goes somewhere and everything just happens perfectly first go. It seems to be like we just want this exception to be for Africa to have it all dialed in like 100%, like first super world, and then we'll say yeah. But any little, I've seen other videos. Somebody gets robbed. Oh, they got scammed. They got jibbed. How dare Africa is this and that. But I'm like, they do that in the States. People are getting shot. This and that happening. It's way it's way more worse. Trust me. And but we shouldn't hold that over Africa because they are actually just starting to rise. Most of them don't know these things. Most of them are figuring it out. And I saw like a comment somebody mentioned in one video, like they were saying, hey, we are trying our best. We're learning to do hotel service and stuff like that to provide, and true, they don't know the other part. They don't know what you do, what you know, so they cannot really operate that. And if you live in UK, US, Australia, and you're one of those type that always has to speak to the manager and complain about everything, Africa is not for you. Africa is not for you. Africa needs people that are more proactive and more because most of the time they just don't know. And I've seen that a lot of the time. Sometimes you go to a place to buy something and people they're just chilling and talking. They just look at you like, what are you bothering us for? They're not up to that point where it's like, hey, this is money coming in, this is a customer coming in, and let's go and service them. In the developed world, that's where I've had stories. People tell me like in New York, it's so fast that if you go in a fast food restaurant and you come in front of the till where the cashier is standing asking you, what do you want? And if you're still looking, going, they're going to point to somebody behind you and say, next, what do you want? What do you want? If you're not ready, they'll go to the next person because that's how fast it goes. So, and they already know that kind of like that's how life happens. But Africa people are just not Africa. You can go to South America, you can go to Pacific Island, you can go to you see the same thing. People are just chilling. They don't have they I've gone to a restaurant and I asked them what they cook, and I'm like, hey, can you cook me something this way? I'll pay you 3 times over. And the chef sent the waiter said no. I'm like, I'll pay you extra 4 times. That's a lot of money. If you ask that in the States and say you pay somebody extra, wow. Immediately, bang, they'll get it like that with super service. What else do you need? This and that. Can I do that to you? But in Africa, people just haven't got to that point and see like, hey, that's what makes the world develop, is things like that. You provide that kind of service. So they don't have that perspective, and that's what we need to. I do that myself. I'll show you some stuff that I've done with farming and stuff like that. I can show you the pictures here. That's what we need to do. People coming from the developed world and stuff like that, so that we can help Africa rise, because they require the leadership that most of us should go with and learn that skill and learn that, hey, this is something that I need to learn, and this is what I'm going to go. And yeah, and I hope the Mohammeds, if you see this, this is not a bad take, but this is just a commentary on what you posted in your video. And if you make a transition to another country, I wish you good luck. And yeah, Africa loves you a lot for what you're doing. So remember, we're all in it, and it's just a growing process for everybody. And this would make Africa look really great, bringing all the leadership skills that we have in the States, in America, and from around the world. Most people tend to hold back when they go to Africa, but please, they need that. All right, you have a good one. Bye.